What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this episode of From Mourning to Action, Powerfully Working Through Loss. I am your host, Dr. Damon Silas, and we're going to remix it again a little bit today. I know a couple of weeks ago we did that same thing, but today we're going to do a little bit differently, and it's going to be a solo episode because I wanted to share with you all a little bit about the action plan. Some people may continue to have questions about what this action plan is all about. I know sometimes in the interviews that I do with people, we go pretty quickly over the acronym ACTION. And so I wanted to be clear in terms of what each of those letters stands for, what's behind them, what was the incentive behind each of these letters as I came up with this action plan. So I just wanted to share that with you all today. That being said, this was actually inspired by Jason Linett, who has a podcast called Work Smart Hypnosis, and he actually is the person who trained me in hypnosis. I was very fortunate to go through his training. He is great at what he does. He also just released a new book, Work Smart Business, which is all about how he developed $1 million business. So he's just a wonderful person, a wonderful resource, and recently on his podcast, he did a solo episode where he talked about one of the chapters in his book. So I said, wait, I want to do the same thing. So thank you, Jason, for the inspiration behind this episode today. That being said, again, today I want to talk to you about the A of the action plan. And as we go along in this series, in between having other people on the show and interviewing them about their losses, and as you all know, even as we talk about loss on the show, it's a very broad range. It's a spectrum of loss, so it doesn't necessarily just have to be about loss as in death, but it could be, a loss as in last episode we talked about somebody losing their faith community, being kicked out and disbarred from their faith community. Other times we've talked about loss of identity and how somebody used to identify themselves versus how life happened and then they had to identify themselves differently. We've talked about trauma. We've talked about grief. So we've kind of covered a whole spectrum. So that being said, again, this is all about looking at loss from a wider lens. So what is the A for? As you all know now, or may not, the A stands for affirmations. It also stands for afformations. So I'll get into the differences between the two and what makes each of these so important. Affirmations are statements you repeat to yourself, preferably at the beginning of the day, before your day even starts, but also throughout your day. These are statements that serve as reminders that overall, you got this. It's a statement that, although you may not believe it when you first start saying it to yourself, you still say it. The premise behind an affirmation is that you essentially, quote unquote, fake it until you make it. Or in this case, fake it until you believe it. An affirmation is something where you are releasing a limiting belief and replacing it with a more empowering belief. It's a declaration that you are not going to lay down and simply let life happen to you. You will stand up and get the job done no matter what. And when life gets tough, it is that much more important that you continue to repeat these affirmations to yourself even louder. Many of us have limiting beliefs about ourselves. What negative belief did you have about or toward yourself this morning before even leaving the house? Rather, I should ask, how many? Numerous, I am sure. So in writing this second book, there was a part of my negative self-talk that doubted whether all this material would even make a long enough book, let alone a decent or educational enough book. But then through affirmations and other means, I was able to come to the conclusion that this book is bigger than me. It's about spreading knowledge and wisdom to everyone else. My affirmation is that I vow to write this book for the world, thus sharing what I have learned in hopes that it will reach countless people. Another affirmation was that I released the limiting belief that what I have to share isn't worthy enough. I have the information, education, and personal and professional examples I can access that would make it easy to share this word. So therefore, from this point forward, I am maintaining the unwavering belief that I am an excellent writer and healer, and it's continuing to get better every day. I actually got this format of affirmations from Hal Elrod in his book, The Miracle Mourning. Honestly, that book was a game changer for me. Here we are 2 years later, more than 2 years later, and I'm still using it. If you have a chance to ever read it, do yourself a favor and do it. Then apply it. You owe it to yourself and the world. It is filled with nuggets of wisdom and ways to shape and create your future where you have or take back control over that which is felt out of control. This is primarily done before 8 a.m. And truth be told, I probably wouldn't have been so regimented and disciplined about writing this book had it not been for the miracle morning. It would have remained floating around my head within all the gray matter. So thank you, Hal. This all reminds me of a documentary I watched recently on PBS where there was a family who wanted to instill certain thoughts, beliefs, and values in their 5-year-old son. They spoke about practicing affirmations on a daily basis. Theirs for their son were, I am smart, I am intelligent, I am kind, I am a good friend, I am loved, as well as some others. It was clear that their son believed this as he appeared to be a self-confident young man, and that the parents believed this with all their heart. Their motivation to engage in these daily affirmations was to counter the thought process of what others, such as society as a whole or law enforcement, may say or think about him as a brown child, especially as he gets older. If those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are already deeply entrenched, it will be hard for those to be broken as time goes on. What an empowering story of affirmations. I can't wait to see how this young man turns out in the future. So the other side of this affirmation coin is afformations. Yes, I said that correctly. Afformations. What are those, you may ask? Well, these gems I actually learned while I was going through my own therapy to become an EFT practitioner. In order to become a practitioner, you have to complete a certain amount of hours of therapy in order to clear your own stuff so you can be fully present with your clients. Makes complete sense, as that was exactly what was suggested in my graduate school program as well. You can't give to others if you have nothing to give, or if you're not mentally and emotionally in a place to give that attention to others. Regardless, my therapist at the time suggested I start doing these affirmations, and I have since been a fan and advocate, if you will. Affirmations are slightly different from affirmations in that they're posed in the form of a question. You essentially are asking yourself, why is it so easy? So, if you pick a topic, an area of concern, let's say you're worried about speaking in front of a group of people, as a lot of people are. I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have to dying, second to dying, if not before dying. So you may say something along the lines of, why is it so easy to speak effortlessly in front of groups of people? Though you may not believe this yourself and might even have a tendency to try and answer this question with a negation, well, it's not that easy, which is why I'm concerned. That defeats the purpose of doing this. Similarly to what was stated with the affirmations, you essentially want to fake it until you make it. Repeat it into yourself with a level of confidence and self-assurance as though you are already at that point of belief. As though that is already your thinking and thus way of doing. For our thoughts become actions, our actions result in feelings, and feelings become beliefs. So you want to not only ask yourself this question, but do it in a way that represents your full confidence in this thought. Why is it so easy? Say it with some inflection, with some feeling, with some oomph. And for those wondering, does prayer work for this? My answer is unequivocally yes. The same way that you pray to whatever deity you do, you're essentially saying that you have full faith in that God, Yahweh, Allah, the universe, spirit, divine, has your back, has your best interest at heart, and will provide for you. The affirmations and afformations simply put the power back in your hands. They reaffirm that your higher power has indeed given you the strength and tools already needed to get through this time. Now you're just accessing it in a way that perhaps you never thought possible before. I used to hear my dad, who was not necessarily a religious man at all, despite growing up Baptist, he would always say, God, give me strength. When he was trying to cope with us as we were, I'm sure, doing something crazy like running around the house, chasing each other, getting into some trouble. So that, in a way, was his affirmation that I let go of the limiting belief that I don't have the inner strength to contain and control my anger. I have the faith in you that you will grant me patience. Therefore, from this point forward, I am maintaining the unwavering belief that I have the strength, patience, and restraint I need in these situations, and it's continuing to get better every day. So finally, we talk about emotional freedom techniques and their power of affirmation. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this technique, also called EFT or even tapping, it's a way to stimulate various acupressure points on the body while simultaneously sending a calming signal to the brain. Not to get too technical, but this calming center is also called the amygdala. And when it's triggered, it triggers the body's fight, flight, or freeze center. This is the little guy that causes you to feel a wave of uncomfortable sensations throughout your body when you're startled or upset or nervous. And so by tapping on these pressure points that have been known to correspond to the calming center, it immediately quiets that big A and allows you to process things in a clearer, more calm manner. You can be a bit more lucid and present when engaging in this intervention, this technique. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this technique, as there have been many books that do so. Furthermore, if you look on YouTube or simply Google EFT or tapping, you will find exactly what this method is all about. You can also find it on my Facebook page, which is Doc D's Psychological and Coaching Services. And you can also find it talked about on my website, which is www.damonsilaspsychology.com. Furthermore, the 11th Annual Tapping World Summit is coming up starting February 25th, and it's an 11-day summit that lasts until March 8th. You all, if you haven't had a chance to check out this summit, it's an amazing event. It's free if you sign up now. And you can get each day of those tapping events for free. You get to listen to people like Jessica Ortner and Nick Ortner and Lisa Rankin and Mark Hyman and Dawson Church. I mean, all the people that I look up to and have always looked up to when it comes to just health and wellness in general, but they also engage in this tapping work. I have been honored to be asked to be a part of this event, and I did the recording a little bit back, and my recording will actually air on Monday, March 4th at 8 p.m. So this one is all about the energy of depression and how you can tap through your depression. So if you guys have a chance, be sure to check it out, sign up. I'll put the link actually in the show notes so that you can check that out. Would love to have you as part of the Tapping World Summit. It's just an incredible technique that you can use literally at your own fingertips in the comfort of wherever you are for immediate calm, immediate peace. So the overall premise of utilizing this method is that you acknowledge whatever is going on for you in your life. So whether it's a physical pain, such as back, neck, or shoulder, whether it's emotional pain, such as sadness, depression, anger, nervousness, or traumatic memories that keep coming up, and you simply tap on the pattern of points while recognizing that these things have an impact on you. What this does is it allows you to see your dirt so you can then clean or clear it away. In other words, you can't clean a house unless you see the dirt and dust. So, after acknowledging what's been going on for you and picking that issue, you repeat a statement. Even though I have this issue, whatever that is for you, I still deeply and completely accept myself. So since this chapter is on affirmations, I'll give you a huge long-distance high five if you can find the affirmation in that sentence. I'll give you a second. You probably found it, right? Good. So that's right. You probably noticed that the statement, I still deeply and completely accept myself, is an affirmation in yourself, your beauty, your strength, your awesomeness, even though you have this issue that you've been struggling with. Often we end up identifying with our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as though we, at our core, are our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Newsflash, you are not, we are not, and when you break your arm, you don't describe yourself as a broken arm when introducing yourself to others. So why would you introduce yourself as Denny, the depressed guy, or Amy, the anxious girl, or Pat, the PTSD sufferer? It doesn't make sense now, does it? You don't say, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm a broken arm. So let's step back, separate